Retirement is a broken concept. Think about it. Why would you spend 40 years building a life you want to escape from? If you're grinding every Monday just to make it to Friday, if you're living for the weekend and dying every weekday, you don't need a vacation, you need a new vision. That single sentence has the power to flip your entire world. View upside down. For most people, retirement is the finish line. It's the light at the end of a long, grueling tunnel. It's what people save for, plan for, and sacrifice their best years to reach. But let's ask an honest question. Why is the goal to stop working? Why is the prize for decades of effort? The absence of effort? Could it be that we've been trained to endure life rather than enjoy it? Taught to tolerate work instead of loving it. Somewhere along the line, we were sold a story. Work hard, put in your time, climb the ladder, and one day, if you're lucky, you'll finally be free. But that story is broken. And deep down, you feel it, because the truth is, retirement is a concept built for people who hate what they do. That's why people dream of getting out. But what if the problem isn't the length of the race, but the track you're running on? What if the issue isn't work, but meaningless work? Most people never stop to question this. They wake up to alarms they hate, fight traffic they didn't ask for, work under fluorescent lights to push someone else's vision, and do it all just so they can afford moments of happiness at the end of the day or year. That isn't freedom, that's a cycle, and yet society celebrates this hamster wheel. The 9 to 5 grind is not just accepted, it's glorified. You're praised for showing up, for staying late, for putting your own dreams on hold to meet someone else's deadline. But nobody tells you the cost. Your health, your creativity, your energy, your relationships, your time. Then comes retirement. You're supposed to kick your feet up and finally enjoy life. When your back hurts, your knees ache, and your dreams have long since died. Is that the life you signed up for, or is it the one you settled for? Purpose, on the other hand, never expires. It doesn't have a deadline. It doesn't need a pension plan. Purpose is the kind of fuel that gets stronger the more you use it. When you're operating in your purpose, you're not trying to escape work. You're leaning into it. You're building something that fulfills you, something that helps others, something that leaves a legacy. You're no longer living for Friday because you've found something worth living for every day of the week. People who live with purpose don't count down the days until retirement. They count the people they impact. They don't need vacations to feel alive. Their work gives them life. And while the rest of the world is trying to run away from labor, they're running toward meaning. Think about this. Have you ever seen someone who retires and then suddenly starts to deteriorate? Their health declines, their energy disappears, not because their job was keeping them alive, but because purpose was. We were never meant to drift aimlessly. We were never designed to finally rest at 65. We were created to grow, to contribute, to build, to serve, to expand. As long as you're breathing, there's still purpose in you. As long as your heart is beating, there's still something you were put here to do. Purpose doesn't always show up with fanfare. It doesn't always come with applause or a salary. Sometimes it looks like solving a small problem no one else noticed. Sometimes it looks like serving one person really well. But when you find it, you'll know, because for the first time you'll stop feeling like you're wasting your life. You'll stop feeling like you need an escape plan. The reason people long for retirement is because they're burned out. But burnout doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from doing the wrong things for too long. When your work aligns with your purpose, you get energized. The more you give, the more you receive. You're no longer being drained by your day. You're being fueled by it. That's why the real question is not, when can I retire? But what kind of life would I never want to retire from? What kind of work would I do even if no one paid me? What kind of impact makes me feel alive? What gifts have I buried because someone told me they weren't profitable enough? That's the path. That's the direction. That's where fulfillment lies. If you look around, the people who seem most alive aren't the ones doing nothing. They're the ones doing what matters. Look at creators, entrepreneurs, community leaders, artists, visionaries. They're not retiring from purpose, they're refining it. They're growing into the next version of themselves. They're finding new ways to serve. They're building legacies while others are checking out. So why do we keep aiming for retirement? Why do we celebrate escape over alignment? Because it's easier to follow a blueprint than to draw your own. It's safer to stay on the track than to step off and ask if this track even leads where you want to go. But here's the truth. The system wasn't built for your fulfillment. It was built for your productivity. You were trained to perform, not to live, to repeat, not to reflect. But just because the world hands you a script doesn't mean you have to follow it. You can rewrite the story. Purpose doesn't require permission. It just requires clarity and courage. It means being willing to trade comfort for calling, security for significance. It means waking up not with dread, but with direction, and no, it's not always easy. Sometimes pursuing purpose is messy, sometimes it's uncertain, but it's real, and real is better than routine. Living a life of purpose doesn't mean you never rest, it means you don't need to escape. It means your work feeds you instead of consuming you. You stop surviving the week just to live on the weekend. You stop postponing your joy until someday and start choosing it today. You don't spend your prime years wishing time would move faster, just so you can finally slow down when you've already missed the moments that mattered most. Purpose is also not a one-time discovery. It evolves. As you grow, your purpose grows with you. The things that lit you up at 25 may not fulfill you at 45. That's okay. The goal is not to find one job and cling to it forever. The goal is to stay connected to your why, to keep asking, how can I serve at the highest level in this season of life? That's what purpose does. It shifts with you, it adapts, it doesn't retire, it reinvents. Imagine waking up each morning knowing that your life matters, that what you do contributes to someone else's growth, healing, joy, or transformation. Imagine not needing the weekend to feel free. Imagine not needing a break from your own existence. That's not just possible, it's necessary, because you were never meant to live for the escape. You were meant to live for the expression, the full expression of who you are, what you carry, and who you're becoming. And no, this isn't about abandoning all responsibility or quitting your job tomorrow. This is about realignment. It's about getting honest. It's about asking if the life you're living is one you'd be proud of, not just when you retire, but today. Because the biggest tragedy is not dying young. It's living without purpose until you're old. When you operate from purpose, everything changes. Your relationships get deeper. Your days get clearer. Your goals get sharper. You stop asking how to escape and start asking how to expand. That's when you know you're living a life you don't need to retire from. Not because you can't stop, but because you wouldn't want to. This isn't just a motivational phrase, it's a complete shift in how you approach your life, your work, and your value. Most people spend their entire lives chasing jobs. They go from one opportunity to the next, from one paycheck to another, hoping the next role, the next title, or the next company will finally give them fulfillment. But they keep ending up in the same place, burned out, uninspired, and stuck in something that doesn't feel like it was meant for them. That's because chasing jobs is about survival, but discovering your assignment is about alignment. A job is something you do for income. An assignment is something you do for impact. One drains you when it's not aligned, the other fuels you even when it's difficult. When you chase jobs, you're always at the mercy of what the market needs. But when you operate from assignment, you create markets. You become a solution in a world full of problems, and when you become a solution, you're no longer just looking for work. You become valuable, irreplaceable, even magnetic. Your assignment is that thing only you can do the way you do it. It's a combination of your story, your struggles, your strengths, and your standards. It's the thing you were built for, not trained into. And until you find it, you'll always feel like you're forcing yourself to fit into someone else's box, even if the box is well paid, even if it comes with perks, because deep down your soul knows it wasn't made for that space. Finding your assignment starts with listening, not to the noise of the world, but to the whisper inside, the one that shows up when you're helping someone and time disappears, the one that rises when you see a problem and feel anger or compassion, not indifference. That's the direction. That's the signal. Some people confuse talent with assignment. They say, I'm good at numbers, or I know how to sell. So they jump into roles based on skill sets. But just because you're good at something doesn't mean you're called to it. Talent is a tool. Assignment is the purpose behind the tool. That's why so many successful people still feel empty, because they're operating in talent, not calling. Your assignment is not always loud. It's not always glamorous. Sometimes it looks like something small, mentoring one person, solving one specific problem, building something behind the scenes. But when it's your assignment, it creates energy. It multiplies impact. It pulls people toward you instead of you having to push constantly just to be noticed. When you live from assignment, you stop competing, you stop hustling for validation, you stop chasing applause. You're no longer working to prove your worth. You're working because you've found your worth, and the market may not recognize it immediately. That's okay. Purpose always shows up before paychecks, but once it catches up, your income begins to reflect your impact. You're not stuck in scarcity anymore. You're operating from overflow. The world doesn't need more employees who are just getting by. It needs more people who are fully alive in their assignment, people who aren't just showing up for a paycheck, but showing up because they're on mission. And once you discover that assignment, you'll realize the job was never the goal. The calling was. We've been taught a lie since childhood. The idea that the more you have, the freer you'll be, more money, more things, more status, more recognition. It's the belief that if you just accumulate enough, you'll finally be free. But look around. The people with the most aren't always the ones who are free. Some of them are trapped in cycles of pressure, stress, insecurity, and fear. They have the house, the car, the bank account, the followers, but they're still anxious, still overworked, still unfulfilled. That's because freedom was never about how much you have. It's about how closely your life aligns with who you were created to be. Alignment is living in sync with your purpose, your values, your vision. It's when your actions match your assignment. It's when you stop living two lives, the one you show to the world and the one that whispers to you in the quiet. When you're aligned, you don't need to perform. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to keep acquiring just to feel secure. Your identity is rooted, not rented. Accumulation without alignment is a prison made of gold. It might look good, it might shine in front of others, but it weighs heavy on the inside. That's why some of the wealthiest people feel the most enslaved. They can't rest, they can't slow down, and they can't say no, because their freedom is attached to a number, not a purpose. They've built lives so far from their values that they have to numb themselves just to cope with their success. But when you build your life around alignment, everything changes. You say yes with confidence and no without guilt. You know what fuels you and what drains you. You build your calendar around your calling, not just your obligations. Your relationships reflect your standards. Your work reflects your mission. And the best part, you don't need excess to feel peace. Peace becomes your default, not your reward. That's the difference. Accumulation is always chasing more. Alignment is choosing what matters. Accumulation never ends. There's always someone with more. A bigger house, a nicer car, a flashier lifestyle. But alignment is not a competition. It's a commitment to truth, a commitment to integrity, a commitment to living in a way that honors who you really are, not who the world told you to be. Real freedom is quiet. It doesn't need to be flaunted. It's the freedom to be still, to create, to rest, to walk away from anything that doesn't resonate with your purpose. That kind of freedom doesn't come from stacking more. It comes from stripping away everything that's not you, and when you do that, when you get in alignment, you realize you didn't need all that stuff anyway, you just needed to come home to yourself.